FPC Bulldogs, and at home, we're going to be carrying it live on WNZF with our crew here. Rich Carroll, Mike Licio. You know, Friday Night Football. It's all part of what community's all about, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Chris, you got a Bulldogs hat on right now. Chris Zwirn in the studio with us here.
I do.
Friend of ours for a long time. Did you go to FPC?
I did not. My son is a defensive end.
Oh.
FPC, so.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Awesome. Put that microphone right up there to you. So
Get it right up there in my face.
There we go. Got you.
Yeah.
Loud and clear. Anyway, Chris Zwirn, we're going to find out all about you. Sheriff Rick Staly in the studio this morning.
Good morning, David.
And said, kind of a sad day here on this Friday. Kyro, the K9 that just, passed away young. Well, he's like 2 years old. What happened?
So it turns out that he had an undiagnosed heart condition as the equivalent of an animal autopsy. Determined that his left ventricle was undersized. So the heart was working, harder to try to pump the blood through, I assume, and he just passed away. And, he's not doing anything stressful at the time or anything. He was just kind of resting and sleeping. I guess God needed a well-trained shepherd in heaven to maybe keep his children in line up there, I guess. I don't know.
Is that how heaven works? I don't know that.
I don't know. I'm not ready to find out.
Well, all dogs go to heaven, but what was he trained for? What was his specialty?
So it was a dual-purpose dog for tracking, for apprehension, and narcotics. And you're here today at the memorial service. How active he was. He was a very well-trained, very good K9 team with his handler, Master Deputy Marcus Dawson. And that service is at 11 o'clock this morning at First Baptist Church in Bunnell, and the community is invited to attend. There will be, I suspect, K9 teams from around the state because it's a very close-knit community. And sadly, he's the first K9 that died in the line of duty, in the sheriff's office. And I want to thank Flagler County government, General Services. We have a memorial for K9, and we needed it turned because we have made some adjustments to the memorial so that we recognize and remember Kyro for generations. And Craig Flagler Palms donated the engraving that we needed and jumped on it real quick. So I want to thank both the county and the funeral home for really making this memorial top notch today. So
How was the deputy, the K9 deputy? How's it? I mean, gosh, like you said, you lose. What did you say?
Well, it's a double tragedy for the handler because the K9s become part of their family. But in this case, it's a family member and a partner. And so obviously Marcus was pretty broken up. I spoke to him when this occurred. I spoke to him last night because today is going to be a tough day. And, but he's holding up as well as can be expected. But it's going to be a tough day for not only Marcus, but our K9 team and K9 teams around the state that come.
Mm-hmm. The public is welcome to attend.
They're very welcome to attend, and then after the service at the church, we will transition to the Sheriff's Operations Center, less than 1,000 feet away, and unveil the new monument and have a remembrance service there. And the public's invited to that also.
All right, changing the subject, the Rick Staly Operations Center.
Well, the county voted to call the building the Sheriff Rick Staly Law Enforcement Center. I was very honored that was done. I wasn't aware of my staff planning this and working on this until I was about to go on vacation with my wife for a delayed anniversary. And my chief of staff says, hey, there's going to be something that's going to come up at the county commission meeting while you're out of town. I said, okay, what's that? And he said, well, I've been working with the Board of County Commissioners and the county to name the building in your honor for everything that you've done, 50 years of service, but specifically what you've done in Flagler County with the sheriff's office. And I said, okay. And so, that first meeting, I guess, or discussion occurred. I was on a cruise ship, actually. And then when I got back, so I'm very honored that my staff and the Board of County Commissioners and the public have given me this honor. I'm very appreciative they did it while I'm still on the right side of the grass instead of, underneath the grass. It's just a nice honor to recognize my 50 years of service in law enforcement, and I'm not slowing down. So,
all right. Okay, well, good. Well, congratulations. That's super nice for that. Chris Zwirn, you are the guy that you've been a friend of ours for a long time here, and you own Southeastern. It's actually Southeastern Sports, right?
Correct.
But it's also guns, ammo, archery. You got all kinds of things.
Well, stopped doing archery a couple of years ago.
No. Okay.
So right now it's just ammo, guns, accessories.
Okay. We promoted today's show as groceries and guns with the new open or concealed carry, open carry, whatever. A lot of people are confused by it. I heard that you can carry a gun open in Publix, but not in Walmart. So Sheriff Staly, we have to straighten this out here. And what can you do and what can't you do?
So first, let me say, because my general counselor cautioned me this morning, I am not providing legal advice. Okay. But here's what occurred. So a few years ago, the state passed a law for constitutional carry, at which time they outlawed open carry. The state was sued. It went to a federal district court of appeals, and he ruled that part of the statute was unconstitutional because it infringed upon the Second Amendment. And so that after 30 days, that became law and across the state unless it was appealed. Well, Florida's Attorney General chose not to appeal it. So that is now the law in the state of Florida that you can open carry. Now, there are still some...
Well, let's talk about open carry, meaning you can, like Matt Dillon, Wild West, you can have 2 6-shooters walking into the store.
Technically, yes, David. I hope you just didn't start a trend. but yeah, technically we are the Wild South, I guess you could say. Now, look, I'm a staunch Second Amendment proponent. I'm a life member of the NRA. I was a finalist for NRA Law Enforcement Officer of the Year about 4 or 5 years ago. And I've always advocated firearms and, frankly, open carry. I'm fine with open carry. And the fear that everybody had when we went constitutional carry, which means you didn't have to have a permit, it's going to be the Wild West in the South and shootings are going to go up. We didn't see that happen. It's probably a little too early to say for sure on open carry, but I think it's a lot of hype, and you're not going to see any real increase in gun violence. I really don't believe that. I think most gun owners are responsible adults. But let me just explain some caveats to this. So first off, if you're a convicted felon or you've been adjudicated mentally incompetent, you cannot open carry. In fact, you can't have a gun at all legally. That doesn't mean they don't get them, because they get them on the black market and stuff like that, and we make lots of arrests. And that even includes the ammo. So if you're walking around, you're a convicted felon or you've been adjudicated mentally incompetent, and you're carrying a bullet, nothing else, that's a felony. Okay, so that disqualifies that group of people. Then on private land, whether it's a business or a home, you have the right to deny or allow firearms on your property. You can legally walk around on your property with a firearm forever. That's been the law, that you can carry a gun on your property. So in Florida already had a bit of open carry. For example, a number of years ago, the legislature passed a law that said if you're going fishing, you can have open carry. And so we have people that have tested us. They carry a fishing pole. They probably have no intent to fishing, but they carry a fishing pole and they have a gun on their side, and they want to see what kind of interaction they have with law enforcement when somebody calls. But that was legal. During a state of an emergency, you can carry a gun openly. So you already had a slimmer of open carry, and but what's going to happen now, and we haven't seen it in Flagler yet, but I've seen it. I've seen videos of it across the state. Is you do have people that are pushing the envelope. In other words, they carry multiple guns, very visible. Okay, they carry AR-15s riding on a scooter down a sidewalk. So you do unfortunately have people that are going to push it. And what I think is going to happen is that the legislature is going to look at that when the session opens in January. And I think that they will define what a weapon is or what a firearm is for open carry. So we'll see what comes out of the legislature. I'm sure it's going to be quite controversial because anytime you talk about guns, it's controversial in the legislature. It's controversial among 67 sheriffs, quite frankly, because you have different opinions of the sheriffs. I happen to be one that supports the Second Amendment, and I'm fine with open carry. I believe, the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, and law enforcement can't be everywhere all the time. But what I say, I've had 2 community events where I've been asked this question. And what I say is, if you're going to open carry or even concealed carry, you have to make the decision that can you take a life to defend yourself or someone else if you get in the middle of a situation. And if the answer to that is you're not sure or no, then you probably should not be carrying a gun except for going to the range and, sports shooting, stuff like that.
Well, Chris Zwirn, I see you shaking your head. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
By the way,
absolutely.
Brian McMillan's here too. Good
Hello.
morning. Hey, I'm sorry you didn't even welcome you to the show here, but
It's all right. People could see me if they're on.
yeah, there you are.
Facebook,
Wave
so-
at Brian there. Yeah, you can watch us live or the podcast back on the Flagler YouTube channel. Also the Flagler, the WNZF Facebook page. So we're live on the cameras there too. You can see what Chris Zwirn looks like. Of course, you've already seen Staly enough, but he's there anyway. Always looking good. All right, so is this good for because you sell all kinds every time I go in your store, it's very busy. And so is this good for the open carry? Does it make a difference for you being in the retail business?
Nah, for sales, it doesn't really do anything. We're doing a little more accessory like holster outside the pant holsters, but it all, in my opinion, it all comes down to personal responsibility and knowing exactly what Sheriff Staly said is are you willing to do something that most people do not want to have to do? I mean, the ultimate goal of owning a protection firearm is to not have to use it, I think. But if you do have to, are you willing? If you're not willing, put it away because it's not a showpiece.
Well, but then again, also training is
Absolutely.
I mean, is the whole thing like you have to. I mean, years ago, I did take the gun, the permit, and the class, and did everything with that, and when that was brought up too, like if you're not ready to actually pull it out and kill somebody that needs to be done somewhere, then you shouldn't be carrying it for that. Like you say, if you're not really sure, or how can you be sure unless you're trained for something like that?
Well, Rick can speak to this, even law enforcement. You don't know what you're going to do. You don't know how you're going to react until you are put in that actual situation. You can do all the training you want to do, and it'll get you that much closer to your reaction. But until you're, God forbid you get into a firefight, I'm going to try to turn and run. If I can get away, I'm going that way. I don't want to shoot, but I will if I have to.
It's with a handgun, it's hard enough to hit a target still and being calm, let alone, adrenaline and all kinds of, action and things like that going on. It would be, to me, real dangerous and easy to shoot the wrong person.
It seems kind of like the thing that worries me about this whole conversation is like if we're saying, if you're going to participate in open carry, then you need to decide ahead of time, yes, I'm willing to shoot somebody. I kind of understand what you're saying, but does that mean that, if something questionable happens and like, I decided, I committed, now I've got my gun, like, are we possibly risking having, I mean, I know you said you don't think that having more guns does cause more gun violence. I'm not sure what the studies say about that exactly. I don't have anything in front of me, but having a mentality where people are now saying, yes, I will shoot somebody. Is that really good for our society?
Well, I think what I would say to that is you have to be prepared. Otherwise, you're introducing a gun into, and it could be taken away from you and used against you. But I think the reality is that if you, Kennesaw, Georgia, decades ago, probably 40 years ago, mandated in a city ordinance, every home must have a gun. Guess what their crime rate is? Like zip. Okay. So I think there is some truth to criminals. If they know that they're going to get injured, they're probably not going to attack you. But I think what's important for the community and anybody listening to understand is, while Florida has a stand your ground law, it all determines on the individual facts of that situation. So if you pull out a gun and shoot someone because you felt threatened and all the person was doing was yelling at you, you're probably going to go to jail. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because the circumstances, the facts of the case don't rise to the level that you could use deadly force. So not only do you need training in firearms, but you need training in legal. And let me tell you what will happen for a guarantee if you shoot someone. You're going to get sued. If they survive, you're going to get sued by them. If they don't survive, you're going to get sued by their relatives, family members, and you could be financially devastated. Maybe not criminally charged, depending on the facts of the case. So, you know, this is the best thing to do is de-escalate. We do a lot of de-escalation training in the sheriff's office, along with hundreds of hours of firearms training. And I have our agency I'm very proud of our record on de-escalation. You know, we could have probably used deadly force anywhere 13 to 16 times since I've been sheriff in 8.5 years. We've done it once. And that's because the individual was a fugitive, did not give us an opportunity to try to de-escalate. He pointed a gun immediately at a deputy, and he was shot. And then the deputies went into life-saving mode and saved his life because it was out on the west side. So, you know, delayed paramedics. But those are the realities of you know, decisions that you have to make.
We could probably, as a society, use a lot more de-escalation training, just everybody in general. But I guess I don't know, pickpockets might steal somebody's gun. I mean, we put in a safe at our house because we don't want to accidentally have anybody come in. But if I'm walking around and it's just kind of like, it seems.
So you have a gun?
I do not have a gun.
You don't. Well, Chris,
we can fix that.
Chris is having a sale next week.
I've had Nerf guns before. Does that count?
So what? All right. So what kind of? So let's take Brian here. He's never really had a gun. He's not a big, but he's like, you know, says, all right, well, we should probably have one in the household
Scout
somewhere.
Camp. I've shot him at scout camp.
And even, okay, and even you know, and just like to keep in your safe or something, whatever. What would you recommend? Do people come in your store saying, I've never owned a gun before, but I feel like I want to get one? What do you say? What do they say?
Yeah, I do. Everything is individual, you know, preference. If it is strictly going to stay in the house, there are things way better than a handgun that you can have. You know, if you get shotgun, throw some bird shot in it. You're not necessarily going to have a lethal shot, but you're gonna do something to stop the situation. If it's to carry handguns, and there are thousands and thousands of handguns, you know, it depends on what the intended use is, and you know whether or not a gun feels good in their hands.
Well, I mean, okay, a shotgun, just cocking a shotgun is a pretty good deterrent if there's somebody on the other side of the door.
So,
right?
Yes, absolutely. And if they hear that rack and they continue to come, you know you're going to probably have a problem. The issue with buying a shotgun, a pump shotgun, isn't necessarily the pump shotgun. It's the person buying it hoping and praying that that is a deterrent. They're going to have that in their hands. They're not going to have any ammo in it. They're going to rack it. Person's going to continue to come. Well, then they have a pretty expensive baseball bat in their hands because they aren't really defending themselves.
I can use a baseball bat pretty well.
There you go.
There you go.
Pretty
All
good.
right. All right. So what are people buying these days for self-defense? What's the, you have hunters and you have, target shooters and things like that. But people say, I just need something for self-defense. What do you say, like a woman comes in, a single mom?
Sure.
What would you say to her?
We would put a pistol in her hand, let her feel it, see if it feels comfortable in her hand. If it's not comfortable, then they aren't going to use it anyway. So we'll move on to the next thing. Once she decides on whatever it is, then we go over and get lock boxes, make sure she's got a way to keep it secure. She's a single mom. She's got kids in the house. You don't want there to be an accident with, you're talking about a gun safe of some sort, something that the child can't get to. Keeping it safe in the house, making sure that there are so many people down here from the Northeast that, and I hate to say that they're from the Northeast, but that's where most of them are from, that have never been around firearms. They're terrified of firearms because guns are bad. Guns are bad. Guns are bad. It's drilled into their heads. But guns, just like anything else with kids, if they are mysterious, then the kids are going to want to go play with it. So just teaching the children gun safety as well at the same time. You'll have many fewer accidents if you train a child.
Mm-hmm.
I think also it's important, if you're going to be a gun owner, be a responsible gun owner, and that includes in the home and in your car. I can't tell you how many auto burglaries we have investigated over the years. Cars were unlocked, a gun was left in the car, and that's what these thieves want because they can sell it on the black market. And so if you're going to have a firearm, be a responsible gun owner. Keep your firearms locked up until you need it or can lawfully carry. And let me just say, we're talking a lot of crime. I want to remind everybody, crime is down over 50% in the last 8 years. The likelihood of you having to use a firearm in Flagler County is very, very slim. My deputies don't use their firearm. Most of the time it's used at the range, qualifying and training. So we're in a very safe community. But there are some communities and some places you may go that you want to carry, quite frankly. As a sheriff, I always have a gun on me.
Well, I read in the Observer that one of training, the guy shot himself in the leg.
Well, what
happened there?
In the last 4 weeks, we've had 3 accidental shootings in this county. The gun law change on open carry had nothing to do with that. The person that you're referring to was a retired law enforcement officer. He's required to pass what's known as an HR 218 annual qualification. Qualification is set by the state, and he had come to the range to qualify, and he was holstering his gun at the very beginning, and the gun discharged and shot himself in the leg. So obviously he failed HR 218. He did get a helicopter ride to the hospital. And I talked to him, and it's one of those things. So here's a guy that's had, probably 30 years of law enforcement training, retired, goes to the range, and an error occurs, or there's some type of malfunction with the gun, depending on whose version you believe.
Don't put your finger on the trigger when you're holstering it.
Yeah, that might be an important reminder. But he said that he had been having trouble with the gun and took it to a friend for some repairs, and then went out there. So, two things I would learn from that. If you're having trouble with a gun, take it to a qualified gunsmith for repair. And certainly don't take it to a range to qualify if you're having, problems with that gun.
All right, so the guy's embarrassed about that, I'm sure.
In Ormond Beach, a guy shot himself in the right testicle a week or so ago. So there was no. I don't know if that was one of your 3 or 4 accidental shootings, but
that wasn't one of mine. But we had one in the parking lot at Tractor Supply. Just
he was able to remove the bullet.
Hey.
this week. He shot his finger.
Jeez, Brian.
removed
Okay.
the
That was
bullet
also in the
himself.
newspaper on the same
Was it?
page as the other one.
I didn't
so.
read that. The testicle shooting. He was right-handed, I would imagine. Okay.
It didn't say that.
Okay.
Brian, you have really taken Free For All Fridays to
I
a
know.
new low level.
It's the first time that word has ever been said. It's an anatomical term on Free For All Friday.
That's right. From Brian. Brian McMillan. All
You
right.
knew it would come from me.
Okay.
It's going to
well,
go beep, beep, beep when you
So,
replay this.
all right, there's Glocks, right, that are clips, and then there's revolvers that, for somebody brand new, for what do you recommend, a revolver or something with a clip?
Sorry, it's a magazine, not a clip.
Okay, thank you.
People call it a clip because that's the sound that it makes when
Oh.
it goes into the gun.
Okay,
Anyway, sorry about that.
that's
But-
right. See, we gotta learn something.
So with revolvers can be difficult because they have typically a 10 to 12 pound trigger pull. So as you're pulling the trigger, if you are not trained, if you're not using it enough, you're going to start pulling off to the right. And you got to remember, you're responsible for every projectile that leaves that firearm. So if you miss what's in front of you and there's something standing off to the side of it and you hit that person, you're responsible for that. I mean, there's just no way around it. So if you don't have the strength or dexterity to be able to use a revolver, then you should not get a revolver.
Well, we're blessed to live in a community in a town, unlike other places in the country, where you almost always feel threatened. I heard I can't remember exactly, but he was like, that's all I want to talk about, situational awareness, where he said that when he goes into a restaurant with his family, he's always looking to have his back to the wall somewhere, and he's looking at everybody in there that comes in, like who could possibly be a threat and what would he do. His brain is thinking like that all the time. Here, I don't think anybody just a civilian or anybody would think that way, but he's like always thinking that way with the situational awareness of it. Is there anything that we should be aware of, or what do we look for when we're for a situation that could become dangerous? Say if we're at a Walmart or a Publix or we're at the movie theater, what are the kind of things that we should go, whoa, this isn't right?
Well, I'll take a stab at that. Maybe Brian and Chris might want to jump in there. But first off, look for things that are out of the ordinary. So I would suspect the person that you're familiar with probably either has military or law enforcement training, because that's very typical of that. Just watch where I sit in a restaurant, you'll see that. But and my wife knows, where she's supposed to sit. Okay.
So you do that. So you
I
have
absolutely
that
do.
all the time in your mind, situational awareness. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I will tell you, Gilchrist County just a few years ago had a sergeant and a deputy in a restaurant eating, and a guy came in and killed both of them, and they couldn't get their guns fast enough. So those things do happen. And Gilchrist County is maybe 28,000 population, very small rural county. But here's what I would look at. Look for the unusual behavior or clothing. In other words, it's 90 degrees outside and somebody comes walking in with a trench coat, a heavy coat on. What do they have under that? And why are they doing that? So you look for the oddities that are occurring, the things that kind of stand out, if you will. And if you feel that something's wrong, you should call the sheriff's office. See something, say something, let us come and investigate it and make sure that everything is okay.
So, all right, let's go with this. Okay, we're sitting there at, it's not Denny's anymore, but, we're in a diner. All right. And we see, like you just said, the exact situation. So it's hot out and some guy comes in walking, and we're profiling somebody here, which is, we all do. That's why we people watch, because we all like to profile. Okay. So you said call the sheriff's department? I mean, I would feel like, am I being paranoid just because some guy came in with a...
Well, I mean, here's the way I look at it. You could always let the manager know of your concerns too, okay? But I would rather have our deputies come and you call us and our deputies come and check something out. They're very professional. They're not going to come in and point guns at everybody and say outside, we're going to talk to the individual. But imagine if you didn't do that, and it turned out that person was there for a very bad reason. And because domestic violence situations are very dangerous and can boil up in workplaces and, at home and stuff like that. So you just never know. Nasty divorces that occur, fighting over children and stuff like that. So, we would rather investigate it. I'll give you a prime example. This occurred in 1983 at the Orange County Sheriff's Office in the courthouse. Courthouse didn't have the security like you have today in courthouses. The guy came in wearing a trench coat for traffic court. A bailiff challenged him, and he pulled a gun and shot and killed that bailiff, wounded a correctional officer. There was somebody else that was also injured and years later died. And he was there because he got a traffic ticket and he was mad at the Orlando police officer. That started because he wore an unusual outfit coming into the courthouse for the weather that was outside. And so those are the kind of indicators that you...
Okay. So just kind of follow your gut and your instinct. And if something's not right here, hit 911, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
don't challenge, don't you take it into your, you should not take the action. You should report it to the manager if it's at a business or call the sheriff's office and let us check it. And let me say one thing that I didn't say under the open carry law. You're going to find businesses and landowners are going to start putting on doors, no guns allowed, which is their right, or guns allowed. We're going to see that, I'm sure. If you are carrying open carry and you go into a private business and they ask you to leave because they don't allow guns, you need to do that because that is their right as the business owner to deny that. If you refuse to leave, law enforcement can be called. We will ask you to leave. If you still refuse to leave, you'll be arrested for trespass after warning. You risk, which is a misdemeanor, but you do risk a felony charge of armed trespass, and you don't want that. So it's all about working together with the owners of the property.
Are guns expensive, Chris?
They can be. I mean, just
like what? Give me a range of what would be from a low end to a expensive one.
Low end, $200 up and up. I mean, you can go up into into the thousands with firearms. What
for target practice for sport and everything? There's long guns. Actually, my son had a Creedmoor, and him and his wife, they would go compete in the Tampa area and shoot a quarter like a mile away, and then they had to get up and run and move to different locations, and it was a timed out competition type thing. It was like just crazy, but I know that was an expensive gun.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're talking about things that are shooting long distance, you can get up into the $8,000-$10,000 range.
What are bullets?
Oh, well, they're probably loading their own. But bullets are fairly inexpensive for common calibers. When you get into the calibers that aren't so common, they can be $2 a piece.
It's like years ago there was a shortage. Do people do that where they hoard ammunition and then
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when the 22s went away, what was that, 10 years ago? Something like that. There were just no more 22 long rifle bullets.
But now they're around.
They're everywhere. Yeah.
Are we adequately armed? Because you said the one community, it was like everybody has to have a weapon in their house, and there was virtually no crime with that. Do you have a sense that, this Flagler County, we're pretty well armed in our homes?
Well, I won't tell you how many guns I have, but personally, because I don't want anybody to, try to take me on. But I could stand them off for quite a while. But my gut feeling is that we have a fair number. But you also have the people that, as Chris said, came from jurisdictions up north that had really strict gun control laws, and they don't want anything to do with firearms. So my perception is kind of a balance, but in the community.
Yeah. So you feel like it would be a good thing if more homes had guns in them, sort of like the Georgia city that you're talking about?
If there are responsible gun owners and they lock their guns up so children can't get them, they can get access to them if they feel the need. for them. I had an incident at my house, I don't know, a few months ago. I was still working. My wife calls me and says, a guy just went under our dock. And I said, well, I'll pull up my cameras. And the next thing I know, he had got on our dock and ran towards the back of my house. Now, my wife is in there alone. And so I already had deputies responding. And I told her, I said, go get your gun. Get your gun in your hand and be prepared. The deputies are en route. Well, he chose the worst house in the world to try to get out of the weather from and run towards the back of my house. And he found that out very quickly. Okay. But so you just never know is my point.
Well, and I know we do the fast draw contest at the Creekside. We're going to be doing it at our Andy and the guys. It's a fast draw. It's a fun competition where it shoots wax. What are they, 38s or something? Or
yeah, so they're 38 special, 38 rounds, if you will, single, not dual action, single action revolvers. A lot of fun. It's a little less expensive than shooting real ammo because all you need is a shotgun primer, a shell casing, and wax. And it'll go your 21 feet that you need to hit the target. It's a lot of fun. My wife and I do it.
And I've seen Debbie outdraw you on that. So, you don't want to mess with Debbie.
You're right. Okay. You don't, because she has either gotten faster or I have slowed down a little. Not by much. I mean, we're talking, I'm sure she's listening, and she's going to appreciate this, but tenths and hundredths of a second, but she has beaten me.
All right. And by the way, in Southeastern, thanks. Chris is sponsoring it. That's going to be at the Country Fest, November 22nd. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Need help navigating through the mortgage process? I'm here for you. This is Mike Akialis with American Home Mortgage Group in Flagler Beach, serving the community for over 22 years. Call me 793-5435 or find me online at michael.mortgage.
Be local, buy local from local companies and members of the Flagler Home Builders Association.
Hi folks, this is Bill Gallagher with SolarFit. Just a note to the wise, beware of unlicensed contractors knocking on your door. SolarFit has been installing solar systems in our community since 1975. We won't knock on your door, so give us a call at 445-7606, 445-7606.
The Flagler Home Builders Association, building a better community for you.
Locals know where locals go.
NFL football is back and it's at Johnny D's. Every single game. Happy hour 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day and $4 shot specials on game days.
Johnny D's Beach Bar and Grill. We're waiting for you.
She's Carla.
And that's Alan.
If you don't know who we are,
now you do.
We're the owners of your local Benjamin Moore paint store.
Next time you're thinking about painting, think about us. Benjamin Moore, corner of Old Kings and Utility Drive.
Palm Coast.
Tired of waiting for your home to sell? Evolve Property Group is not your average real estate company, specializing in property management and real estate investors, navigating complex sales transactions, maximizing cash flow, managing tenants, rent collection, even evictions. Visit evolvepg.co. evolvepg.co.
Your do-it-yourself website isn't cutting it, champ. ComcoastWebsites.com builds you a pro site in 14 days or less. Guaranteed. Don't love it? Don't pay. ComcoastWebsites.com, because your website shouldn't look like it was built on dial-up. ComcoastWebsites.com.
Need help navigating through the mortgage process? I'm here for you. This is Mike Akialis with American Home Mortgage Group in Flagler Beach, serving the community for over 22 years. Call me 793-5435 or find me online at michael.mortgage.
We're back, Free for All Friday. Sheriff Rick Staly in the studio. Been a while since I hear you on the radio all the time, but it's been a while since you've visited us in our Free for All studio.
I always like coming to visit you. You never know what to expect when you're hosting this, David.
Well, because we don't really plan anything. That's why. We don't know either. All right, Brian?
Exactly.
People go, oh, do you and Brian get together before the meetings and plan? I think your response pretty well answers that. Your chuckle.
We don't.
We don't. We don't have any idea. But anyway, we're talking about Kicks Country Fest coming up November 22nd. It's going to be a big charity fundraiser at the Flagler County Fairgrounds. Chase Bryant is our national act that's coming in. We've got a whole bunch of people. It's a big family day. It's fun. It starts around noon. Gates open at 10. Chase Bryant, everybody's home before too dark or whatever. And we do have the It's called the Fast Draw thing, and we'll raise money for the Sheriff's Youth Branch doing that as well.
Yeah, great.
And Chris is a sponsor of it, and I just thought of it sitting here like, geez, I should thank you for that. So thank you for Southeastern Guns being a sponsor of that and helping out the community. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We have stuff for kids to do all day long, and great music and food and beer, of course. It's country. Busch Light is our big sponsor. So we'll entertain everybody throughout the day. So I hope you come out, Brian.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about is with This is having to do with guns right now. It has to do with the city of Palm Coast and the speeding and you and the law enforcement. They're talking about lowering speed limits in the neighborhoods so people go slower. And then I think Teresa Pontieri goes, I'm sick and tired of hearing about people being killed on the well, mostly those are, on the interstate and one and all those sort of things, not into the neighborhood. So I'm questioning, well, first of all, nobody drives the speed limit anyway in the neighborhoods. Do you, Brian?
I do, actually.
Okay.
In the neighborhoods, I mean, I live on a street that's 30 miles an hour, and it feels like if I look down and I'm going more than 30, which is the speed limit, it does feel kind of like I'm pretty cautious because, there are kids on my street.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, I'm talking about speeding. I'm talking about a little bit over, a little bit under, but I'm wondering.
That's the right answer with the sheriff sitting in the studio.
Okay. Well, I mean, so if you're here, let me ask you this: if you're driving, I just drove back from North Carolina yesterday, and it's like, okay, the flow of traffic, on 75, it's going like 80, 85 miles an hour, speed limit 75. Other than Georgia, but nobody's really getting pulled over. So I'm assuming that's the speed you should be driving, right?
Well, you must not have been on Interstate 95 last week at the start of Bike Week because we had FHPs playing up and all kinds of law enforcement.
So what speed do you pull people over for on 95?
So what I'll tell you is what the law says.
Okay.
Okay. So the speed limit is in most places 70 miles an hour on 95, some exceptions. The law says we cannot pull you over unless you're doing at least 5 over. So in effect, that by that statute, increase the speed limit to at least 74. I would say that most law enforcement allows 10 over, but it's really at the discretion of the law enforcement officer or the deputy sheriff. So if the city of Palm Coast lowers their speed limit, say from 30 to 20, we cannot legally stop you unless you're doing 25 or higher. So in theory, it's going to have some impact, but the people that are going to speed are probably going to continue to speed. It just means instead of us having to wait till they hit 35 miles an hour, we can pull them over at 25. Now, since I've been sheriff, we've increased the traffic unit 216%. We had 5 motors when I came in 2017. We now have 8 motorcycles and 8 Mustangs. And their sole purpose is traffic enforcement and crash reduction, reckless driving. And why have I increased that? Because that's our number one quality of life complaint is speed. We also put, when we get speeding complaints in, because we want our deputies to be efficient and effective, we have a speed counter, if you will, that we can put out. Because sometimes speeding complaints are a perception and not a reality. And so if somebody accelerates, they got loud exhaust, the perception is they might be speeding, but the reality is that they're not. And plus we want to know what time is the speeding occurring so that we can put our traffic units in those neighborhoods during that time so that we're using them efficiently. Where we have a bit of a hard time with that is if the speeding is occurring at the start of school or the end of school, the deputies also have to be in the school zones as much as they can to protect the walkers. So it stretches our resources. The other thing that I've done is every patrol car has radar now. Every deputy is trained with that. The state requires a 40-hour class to be radar certified. So we have the tools and the ability to enforce it, but there will always be more speeders and more reckless drivers than I have deputy sheriffs, quite frankly. So it takes education, it takes enforcement, and it takes engineering. All you have to do is look at State Road 100, okay, and look at all the growth that has come in there. Flagler County now has rush hours, which when I moved up here 20 years ago, we didn't have rush hours. We have that now. We have a lot of congestion, and then people get frustrated and they become aggressive drivers. They just finished repaving State Road 100. Well, that's a state road, and it's years in the pipeline to do that. It really should have been widened to 3 lanes on each side, more turn lanes than they added. Already turning on Belterre, if you want to go south on Belterre from 100, it backs up onto 100, which is crashes waiting to happen. So you can't. It's a 3-legged stool, and you need all 3 pieces working together in planning, and that never happens in government.
What about kids in high school? Chris, you said you have a son that's how old?
He just got his driver's license.
Okay, let's talk about that, because you don't have to take driving lessons to get a driver's license in Florida, right? Doesn't that seem crazy that I'm not, many years ago, you had to take a driver's.
That's awesome.
What did Staly just handed you?
I just got to get out of jail free card.
Oh,
that's for his son.
So let me
how are you supposed to learn? I mean, and you need driving lessons. It's probably the most life-threatening thing that you'll ever do in your life. And when they turn age, we say, go get your license.
Well, so you've got to have a total of 40 hours of driving behind the wheel. 10 of those hours have to be at nighttime driving. So the parents are ultimately, which I believe wholeheartedly is the correct answer, is the parents need to be ultimately responsible for what the child does. Doesn't matter if it's in a car or with an airsoft gun or anything else. The parents should be responsible for what the child does. I can't remember what I was on.
But as a dad, because I've got some grandkids that are just of that age too, and it's kind of like maybe playing video games their whole life helps them be a better driver. Or does that make it worse, Rick?
I think it makes it worse, because then they think they can really control a 4,000-pound missile as fast as they want, turn it, and so forth. But let me put a plug in for this. About every month, we offer at minimal cost teen driving challenge. And that's where our deputies take students, drivers, and they teach them about the law. They teach them, and then they do a physical driving course. We set it up generally at FPC in the parking lot. So I would encourage the listeners to go to our website, FlaglerSheriff.com, click on Teen Driver Challenge, find out when the next one is, and apply. So we offer that for the community.
Okay, all right, that's good. That's really good to know. Parents know that, though? Did you know about that?
I did not. No, that's awesome.
So it's for the schools, they really need to. It sounds like something fun for the kids to do too, and get a little more.
Because I agree with you, David. Years ago when I started driving, you took driver's ed, and the dealerships provided the cars, and all that's kind of gone at this point. We started a similar thing when I was the undersheriff in Orange County, and we had a driving range, so we put them on a skid pad so they know what happens when you're going a little too fast and you hit a puddle of water, things like that. If we ever get the State Guard Regional Training Center really built, and it has the driving course on it, we will move this training to there, and we'll be able to do that kind of training with skid pads.
What's going on? Give us an update on the State Guard here in Flagler.
Well, I talked to the Lieutenant Governor last week about my concerns that how this is controlled by the Florida Department of Management Services. And this is my first experience dealing with DMS, although this is really a Florida State Guard project. And they are the slowest people in molasses. We build an operations center faster than we can build this range. So I'm being told that, it is moving along, that The architects are designing it, and the contracts have been done. But hopefully it'll be done before my term is over.
Okay, all right. Well, I hope so. That'd be a good economic boost also for Flagler County. And
yeah, the plan is the State Guard will train their 200 authorized law enforcement that can be deployed here for their general soldiers. For the State Guard will continue to train at Camp Blanding is the plan from the director. But hopefully, I think Speaker Renner had a great idea blending us together. I just now wish, now that I know how DMS operates or doesn't, that he had given us the money, because it had been done by now.
Okay, did you hear that? Very good. Hey, we got to run. Chris Zwirn, Southeastern Sports, thanks for being on the show today. Any give a free plug for your store and what's going on, and any classes for shooting or anything? Go ahead, take it away.
We do a concealed weapons class once a month. Since the constitutional or the permitless carry went into effect, people have really slowed down on training. Please don't. Please train. I don't care if it's with me. Just get some training. Know what you're doing with the firearm, because they are not toys. They're just like a chainsaw or anything else. If you don't know how to use it, you're going to hurt somebody. So, but I appreciate you having me.
Okay. All right. Very good. How can they get a hold of you? Southeastern Sports?
209 South State Street in Bunnell, 386-263-3302.
Okay, final words, Sheriff Staly.
Well, I would put a plug in for the concealed carry permit. Even though it's not required in Florida, there's 32 states that accept Florida's concealed carry permit, and they may not accept Florida's, probably likely won't, constitutional carry or permitless carry in other states. So there's a good reason to have that besides the training. Last thing I would remind your listeners, today at 11 o'clock, First Baptist Church of Bunnell on Commerce Parkway will be the service for our memorial service for K9 Kyro, and then we'll transition to the Operations Center. So thank you. And remember, I did not give legal advice, so what you do with that firearm is up to you, but we'll investigate it.
Personal responsibility, everybody.
Brian McMillan, Palm Coast Observer.
Just want to say congrats to Sheriff Staly. It's pretty cool having the Operations Center named after you, and I think 50 years is pretty remarkable. So what you have dedicated your life to, I mean, it's not a small thing, and you've helped make Flagler County a better place. So I appreciate what you've been doing.
Thank you, Brian. I get to lead an amazing team, and I started when I was like 10 years old.
Everybody have a good, safe weekend. FPC football tonight. Bulldogs live, 7 o'clock here on WNZF.